What's up, everybody? Sean here with Easy Street Billiards. I got Vic in the background with the dog
Hello.
in case there's farting or whatever.
Thanks. It's all baboosh.
Today's topic is going to be creating change. It's a pretty interesting conversation to have. I think I'm going to start with for people that are kind of feel like they're stuck with pool. Mostly that's because you're not doing anything different, so you're getting the same results. So you got to create change in order for things to be different. I know that's paradoxically correct, and a little bit funny in one instance. I guess a lot of the question is, what should I change in order for something to happen? And that comes down to making a decision about what you want it to look like when you're done. So then you just have to decide, okay, right now I have this, and I'd really rather have that. So if you're thinking about all the things that you don't want about your game, and that doesn't lead you to the question of what you do want, then that's probably the first place to start. I think a lot of people say all negative things about themselves, and that doesn't really leave yourself space to have positive things to be said instead. So one change you could make is like, well, I'm going to speak more positively about what's happening, and that could easily be all you need to do. Then every situation that you encounter, you're going to see it as a good thing and not as a bad thing, and that is change. Actually, it doesn't even have to change the physical world. It could just be your mental world that's changed, and that's enough. That could then lead itself to more positive physical changes. I believe that that's basically how it works in a nutshell. Whether or not you have time to decide that you're going to be a professional pool player and invest all those things into all the things that are required to do that, or if you're just trying to see some improvement in your game, I think a lot of it's going to be just about doing the next obvious thing to advance. You know, if you feel like you don't have enough time to commit to pool to get better at it, then probably you're right. And then a change then that would be to make is just to create a little bit more opportunity for you to play pool, and then go out there and do it. And then once you've created that habit, then you've made changes, and now it takes a little bit of time for it all to lock in and get solid. What's another thing you could be doing? You could just change your practice routine. You know, if you want a specific thing to happen, like for instance, if you're primarily focused on being a rotation player and you want to get better at rotation, then if your practice routine isn't helping you get better at rotation, then probably changing something to make it more applicable to improving the actual skills you're going to be using to do the thing that you want to do would be helpful. For instance, one thing that I do when I'm working on my rotation game is I play the ghost. Basically, I don't even play the ghost. I actually just try to break and run as many times as I can. And I'm a pretty advanced player at this point. I don't think necessarily that there's many shots that I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily that I have like complete mastery and familiarity with every shot. Certain shots are a little bit lower percentage, and you're faced with those. And those shots, for me, become the list of things that I'm going to work on, which is that there are some shots that are more routine as far as you're going to see them situationally come across more often, and that I need to then work on that in order to compensate for the fact that I'm seeing this shot happen and I'm not able to execute it properly because I'm not familiar with it to the level that I need to be. And then that recognition of that I have a little bit of weakness, now if I spend a little bit of energy working on that shot, then I'll get better at it. And then when I'm faced with that shot in a break and run opportunity, then I'll have a little bit higher skill level at that one thing that I didn't have, and then that should then allow me to break and run more racks over time. And you can apply that framework to pretty much any situation. It doesn't even matter what shot it is. That's the thing. It's just like, oh, I'm keep seeing this thin cut, and I gotta play the cue ball with a little bit of spin, and I'm not very good at it. Pretty obvious. You just set it up as many times as you have to get better at it, and then once you're better at it, then now when you see it in the game, you'll be more comfortable. I think that's pretty obvious. With that being said, you have to do the work, and a lot of it has to do with changing in your mind what you're capable of doing through small modifications in your strategy as far as how you're approaching the game. I think that pool is one of the most daunting games that there is, because in a way, in order to advance your technique in a weak area, you're going to be forced to reduce by a small amount or a large amount, depending on your focus, your skill in another area, because you can only shoot one shot at a time, and every shot you shoot, you're getting better at shooting that one particular shot. And over the course of a session of pool, you're going to be shooting several different types of shots, and each one of those shots are going to come up with a certain frequency. And it's very difficult to decide which ones are the most important to learn, and then after a while you realize, well, you just need to know everything. And that becomes a very big challenge where you're like, oh, I don't really like working on my kick shots. I don't like working on my, speed control. I don't like working on my, whatever. I just like making the ball, and then, you never end up being able to develop all the skills you need to be able to run the balls out, because your goal is not to break and run racks. Your goal is to just be a good shot maker, and that's actually completely doable. Just like breaking and running racks is just that you're thinking of yourself as being more limited as far as what you can and cannot do, and all you need to do is change your viewpoint about what your capacity will be if I continue to progress my skills, work on my weaknesses, and forgive myself for not being better already, and that it's just a matter of effort and time. I don't know if we have anybody joining us today. Do we?
I'm still posting.
Oh, we're still posting.
Oh,
Yeah, this the point of this video is more just to try to open people's eyes a little bit to how minor of a change in what you're doing, a minor modification, a minor shift in today's thought can open your eyes up slowly but surely to the reality of the fact that pool is one of those games where it's more about continuous improvement than it is having these like huge moments happen where all of a sudden you today are a completely different player and your Fargo has gone up by 50 points over yesterday. It's more like you had the capacity most of the time to play at a higher level, and you've just been not doing that, and it's sort of a knowledge of that, a feeling underneath the skin or whatever, that you could be doing more than you are, and you're just not sure why. Those are the types of things that you start to realize that it's more about a mental shifts and perspective shifts than it is about a physical thing that you're lacking. Everyone is smart enough to be able to run 3 or 4 balls in a row, racks in a row, winning tournaments and stuff. There's not some secret, IQ level that you're required to be at to be great at this game. There's no physical requirement other than be able to just, swing the cue hard enough to hit the ball at all the speeds necessary, and then learn how to be as repeatable as you can so you can strike the cue accurately. And then your vision needs to be good enough to be able to see that you're lined up properly to make the shot you're trying to shoot. But all that stuff is, you just assume that most people can do most of it. There's no expectation that you're necessarily going to be a top pro, so you don't have to necessarily have the best vision that there is, etc. It's more about just having the understanding that you can do it, and that you just need to make little changes, and over time You just keep getting better at these little skills, and then your game will get better. Focusing on things that you can change and shifts that you can make is huge. Seeing in yourself where you've been a little bit more limited in your thinking and expanding your thinking to encompass something a little bit more big picture as far as your own pool game would be helpful. I think for a lot of people, just thinking that I have to win this tournament that's coming up this weekend and focusing on that as being the big thing without realizing that it's like, well, the reason why I'm losing the tournament is because I'm focusing so much on winning it that I'm losing track of the fact that I might play hundreds of these tournaments in my life, and that all I need to do is learn 1 to 2 things about where I could do better for each tournament, and then by the 50th tournament you'll have so much data that you've accumulated that you're using to advance your tournament game that you'll actually have higher results and better results, and then by the 100th you might be winning tournaments back to back to back, assuming that the rest of the field is not doing the same types of things that you are, which is looking for one thing to improve at per session, knowing that it's thousands of repetitions potentially if you give it for every single thing that you do. You know, you can play a weekend tournament almost every weekend if you give yourself time for it, and then if you focus on learning 1 to 2 things, takeaways from those tournaments, and then you practice that during the week, then you can come back to the next tournament and you'll be that much more prepared. And there's only so many things that you have to work on, you know, and it's just a question of what are you working on, you know, and that could be the change that you need to do, is thinking about what you're actually working on. What are my actual goals? You know, it's not even necessarily that you need to specifically do anything differently. It's more of a recognition sometimes that you are doing certain things, and then you'll instinctively start to do things a little bit more productively to help you once you realize that you weren't really guiding yourself in a certain direction. I don't think that this video is going to be much longer. I just more wanted to open everyone's eyes up a little bit to different things they could change. You know, any physical thing that you decide to do, train more, maybe you start doing more cardio, gives yourself body a little bit more stamina for late night tournaments. Start taking naps before evening tournaments if you're more of a daytime person. You know, eat healthier. All those things can help your life, and then will help your pool game because they just make your body function more efficiently and better. You know, and then that's stuff that you can do while you're not even playing pool. That's the thing. It's like so much of pool is about how you show up to the game. If you're set up better than the next person, then you are automatically ahead of them without really having done anything else specifically for pool. It's just being better prepared in your mind, body, and spirit to do the activity that's coming up. If you're not ready to do it, you know, because you haven't prepared your body for it, then that's something that you can make adjustments. If you don't get to play as often, then we'll start preparing for that day a little bit more profoundly, and then give yourself a better opportunity to perform at a higher level, even though you're not playing as often as someone that hits balls 5, 6, 7 days a week and is always kind of like ready to go and in gear. You know, it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily lose to that person just because they hit more balls than you. If you're prepared yourself where you're like, okay, I know I haven't hit as many balls, so I'm going to take more of my awareness and focus on all the things that I want to have happen so that I can have it a little bit more finely crafted and then not rely on my instincts as much to get me there, which is what you're allowed to do when you play more, is you just like let your rhythm be there. You have a more comfortable understanding of it, you know, and if you go into each match being more intentional, those are little changes that then are easy to implement over time. Anybody? No?
Yeah, we got one person watching.
Okay, I think I'm going to close it up though. I don't really have much more to talk about. There's infinite things to change. It's more about each person specifically looking for the own little change that you can make. The smallest change that you could make that would cause you to grow and move forward is really what you're looking for. It's not necessarily about have these huge changes. It's just like a little bit of a shift, and then all of a sudden things will start to happen around you differently. You know, if all of a sudden you're like, well, I want to work on my banking, and then you spend energy on that, then now when that bank shot shows up in a match or a tournament or whatever, and you really need to make it, you're going to have that much extra little bit of comfort attacking that shot properly because you've been practicing it. And that's an example of the little bit of a shift that happens through just making the effort to work on things that you're not good at, that you're not confident about, to get more familiar with, more confident with, and then understand that that's actually what's happening. Is that, well, if I get better at this thing, then I can use it in a match, start being successful using it in a match, in a tournament situation, a competitive environment where I want to win. It's not just a practice thing where I'm just doing it to do it, and then you can gradually just every skill, like draw shots, follow shots, all the things that you could be better at, you can get better at. And then you'll be able to use it and have more success at more levels of play. And so much of it is just everything that's all the little common sense things, so I think that more of the focus of this video is just to help people realize that, no one's going to do the work for you. You have to do it, but if you're already putting in repetitions, which I think most people that are watching this are putting in some reps, is that by kind of like taking a step back, looking at what you're doing, and then making little changes here and there just to see what happens, realizing that at least by process of elimination, you might find out that something doesn't work for you, and then you don't have to think about that anymore. Now you can move on knowing that you've knocked that off the list. There's always so many things that don't work before you find something that does work, and then each of those things that does work, once you've locked it in, then it doesn't go anywhere. You just have to revitalize it, maybe, if you forget about it a little bit, and that's all there is to it. I hope you guys are having a great day.
Oh wait,
Do we have something?
Jeremy Barker said, great perspective in attacking items with this exact mindset recently.
Nice. Glad to hear it, Jeremy. Good to hear from you, man. Just trying to think outside the box a little bit, help other people see a little bit further than they maybe are seeing. I think so much of me watching people play pool is realizing that, it's more about not seeing the little things that they could make changes about that would really make big changes in their games without really doing any extra effort. In fact, most people are actually trying too hard, and that's really the problem. It's more about setting yourself up to be getting better through just little things. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, you're having a great day. Continue to have a great day, and then we'll see you next time.